It's occurred to me that I haven't actually done a little walkthrough video of our new house that we got back in January. So I thought I'd do a quick little video of that. Here's the front gate. It rolls open on the wheels so that you can walk up the driveway and keep stray animals and so forth out of the front yard. We have Bermuda grass that is growing mysteriously. I don't know what waters it. As far as I can tell, I don't have any leaks. We have a pretty good sized driveway and a carport. No, not too many houses have covered carports or enclosed carports or garages in this town. Those that do are pretty expensive. We looked at a few and decided that it really wasn't worth it. The extra money they want for such things. This is how the front yard gets watered. It's a timer, digital timer. This one will even let you set for 3 different time zones or 3 different watering zones and times of day and even calendar days. So it's pretty nice because around here they get all upset and fine you if you water on a Sunday. So I finally had to track down a timer that will not run on Sundays. The other ones I tried would run like, every day, every other day, every 3 days, so on, which would work fine for one week. But then the next week, that would fall on a Sunday. One of those days would, and you'd be in trouble for grinding lake meat and all that nonsense. Anyway, I have these little planters. Some of this stuff was on our patio at our old apartment, and we found new homes for them. These two plant stands were on the patios in the apartment, and we repainted the house. My wife and I did not long after we bought it. It's really close to the original paint color, so in the spots where we couldn't get paint, it doesn't really show too bad. Like on these soffits, you can kind of see where the old paint was. It's not bad though. We used a Wagner paint sprayer to do some of the work. This part of the house here is aluminum siding. The house was built in 1961, so it's in that kind of, what would you call it, mid-century style. It has a gently sloping roof, which we had to replace. Not long after we moved in, we found out that the insurance wasn't going to cover our house because their inspector claimed that it needed a new roof. So that was fun. That's all done now. We're paying for it gradually. This front yard was just bare rock. It did have these trees here already when we moved in. That one's African sumac. The middle one is weeping acacia, and the other one is also African sumac. These are the kinds of African sumacs that produce edible berries, and they have a very fragrant, lovely smelling wood when you prune them as well. And then this grass all grew in, Bermuda grass, came back on its own from me watering the trees. This lavender was really nice and growing and everything back in January. I think the really high heat we had during the summer kind of killed it. Hopefully it'll come back from seed. I've overseeded it with some more lavender seed about a week or two ago. We'll see what that does. This little patch where the grass is the thickest, the guys we bought the house from left this part of the yard intact, its original sod, and then they dug out or tried to dig out and covered up the grass in the rest of the yard because they said their kid was breaking the pop-up sprinklers all the time when he was young. But it's starting to come back because of the way that I have changed the mulch. I've thinned out the rock mulch, and I've done some things that are encouraging plant growth. Someday I'd like to have this completely covered in plants with little paths we've made a lot of progress already, I would say. We planted the lantanas; those are new. We also planted the rosemary, not rosemary, but the yeah, rosemary. The mint over here in this corner came up on its own, volunteer, some kind of mint. The society garlic over here with the pink flowers, that was at our apartment before. And then all these other plants here. Oh, and then the asparagus ferns were in our apartment. And then everything else came up either volunteer or from wildflower and ornamental flower seed packets that I put in not long after we moved in. So that's the front yard. It's being watered by one soaker hose that snakes throughout the whole area, through the big flower bed and in a big loop along the trees. That's where most of the plants are growing. And then these are the roses. These were already here when we bought the house. I pruned them earlier this summer when they had gone almost dormant and weren't flowering at all. That's the best time to prune roses in Las Vegas, here in the Mojave Desert, is not in January or February when people do it, in the Midwest and stuff, because it's actually blooming a lot at that time, unless you have an unusually cold winter. But the best time to prune them here, I've learned, is when it's really, really hot and the plant is practically shut down. That's as close as it comes to going dormant in this part of the world. And then that is a yellow oxalis, or yellow wood sorrel, growing underneath it, volunteer. And I've got sweet alyssum growing in little flower pots over here. Oh, under the carport there, those were periwinkles, I believe. Different kinds of periwinkles that I got from Star Nursery, which is only about maybe a block from our house. Some might say too close. I go there a lot. And then this rock was already here. That's actually concreted into the house. Underneath this aluminum siding, the house is made of bricks, really big bricks. So it's solid. It's a well-built house. It's one of the reasons why we got, partly the price, but partly because it's just so solidly built. It's not made of particle board like the houses are nowadays. That is a variegated agave I've had for many, many years. There's a feathery cassia growing back there. That was already here. It was looking very happy. It was looking pretty sorry for itself when we moved in, but I water it enough now that it's doing a lot better. And then this back here, here you can see the soaker hose. That waters everything. And then back here, this is the west side of the house. And that awning was already there when we moved in. I put the tin foil and some foam insulation in the window because that west setting sun was really making the master bedroom hot. So I had to do something. This is the only part of the yard now that is just rock, and I'll probably keep it that way. And then I added some mulch to try to keep the rock from getting quite so hot. I'm going to keep adding more mulch, more wood chips, and other kinds of mulch as time goes on to try to keep this side of the house a little cooler. It was just bare dirt when we moved in, with little scatterings of rock. And I drug a lot of the rock that was in the front yard over on the other side of the house, there on the north side of the house, over here, and made it a lot thicker, so that when it rains and water tries to run through that drain in the wall, if it ever runs through the drain in the wall, it won't just wash out a big gully, hopefully. So far, it hasn't done that. We had a pretty good rain, maybe you heard about in the news, that caused some flooding here in Las Vegas. But it did very little to our yard because of the sandy soil we have, sandy, loamy soil, and all the mulch and ground cover we have. So it really did its job. All that work has really paid off. I painted this step because the step was the same color as the sidewalk. So, unless you got used to it, you would almost fall down going down this little shallow step. It's the only step on the property, that and the threshold here for the door. I thought I'd better paint that. I also painted the address on the corners of the driveway. They weren't painted for some reason. Most of the ones in the neighborhood are painted, but that one wasn't. So I'm not real proud of my job, but on that, but I did a pretty good job, I guess. That's the front yard.